Hi, my name is Harry, and today we're going to talk about Toon Boom Producer. A couple of things before we dive into the software. First, what Toon Boom Producer is. Producer is a production and asset tracking solution. Not only can it track your productions and your asset productions, you can also do some approvals, you can do some reviewing, you can leave annotations and communicate amongst team members. And in fact, you can also manage your team members. You can give each team member an access to Producer and set them up into different groups depending on their role in the production itself. Producer is available in two configurations. You can either install it on site, in your studio, on the server, or on your home server, and everybody has access to that. Or you can also set it up on a cloud service. Producer is a web-based software, which means that you have access to it through a web browser. This makes it virtually available on any platform as long as you connect to the network or to the internet. So now let's dive into the software itself. First thing first, I'm going to log in as myself inside of Producer. I'll type my username and password and log in. In here, you can see that I have a couple of productions that I can track. Producer, in fact, can track any type of production, whether it is live action, short or long form, whether it's animated in 2D or in 3D. Producer will allow you to track anything, as well as track multiple projects at the same time. Let me run through the user interface very briefly. First of all, you have a list of menus at the top. The production button allows you to go to the production that you would like to track. Open tasks allows you to look at the tasks that you have open or that you have to work on in any given time. Assets looks at the assets that you are wanting to track. You can manage, assemble, set them as categories or types. Review allows you to review. Reports generates reports. And settings is where we want to go if we want to set up our producer. Views is where you can manage views. Within Producer, you can actually create different types of views, save them, and even share them amongst your team. For instance, you could have searches that you have set up. You could have specific types of views, specific windows opened or closed, columns. All of that can be saved and shared amongst your different teammates or for you to go to at any point in time. Let's go to the project that we would like to track. For this one, we're going to go to the environment called Roger et ses humains. In here, you'll see that you have a list of all the episodes that are available currently to track in this project. You can go to each individual episodes by clicking on it, And you'll start getting some information straight away as to the progress of your production. Information available here is varied, such as the name of the episode, the start date, end date. You can even have a completion column that indicates how far each episodes are in production. For instance, episode 9 is 33% complete, episode 12 is 40% complete, and so on and so forth. If you would like to add more columns, it is easy to do so by clicking on this list over here and add the one that you would like to see, or hide some columns as well. If you want more detail as to how far your production is, you can also look at the tasks completion column. In here, you can see each stage of your production defined by you and see how far they are. For example, the script is 100% done on most of these episodes, except for maybe episode 12, which is only 30% done. Same for the storyboard. And if you want a little bit more detail, you can go, for example, to the layout stage, hover above the pie chart, and see that this one is 65% done, with 15 scenes approved, 1 to be revised, 6 to be validated, and 1 in progress. So at a glance, you can have a quick look at how far things are going. There is also another type of view by going to the tiles option. You can now see the episodes in this particular production in a tile view, and the first thing that jumps at us are the colors. You can color code each progress or status for each episode. For instance here, and you can see it down here at the bottom, that script is in white, storyboard stage is in blue, and production is in green. So in the list, you can see that 4 of these episodes are in production, 3 of them are in storyboarding stage, and 1 is in scripting stage. So very quickly, you can have a look at how things are using the color coding. Remember that these colors are completely customizable to your liking. If you want to see more detail, you can also toggle the side panel on and off and see a little bit more here. You can even see notes if there are notes. And you can also toggle the bottom panel on or off. The next view here is to look at the Gantt chart. The Gantt chart gives you an overview of the scheduling of your production. This is created automatically as you are creating your scenes and your episodes within Producer. You just need to set the start and the end dates of each episode that you're creating, and then everything will be set onto your Gantt chart. Over here, you can collapse or show more detail. And if you needed to shift any one of these episodes, for example, they are a bit delayed, say episode 11, you can select it, go to More, and click on Shift Job. You can then shift it by however many days that you need, forward in time by putting a minus, or later in time by adding a number. Let's now dive into a specific episode. So I'm going to go back to my list view and select one of the episodes that I would like to track. For instance, episode 9. So I'm going to either double click on it from here or also go down to the drop-down menu list and go to episode 109 directly from here. Inside the episode, I can see all the scenes that are currently being produced or tracked inside. of producer. We have about 23 scenes here. And you can have a look again at some details about the scenes on the sidebar or on the bottom panel as well, which I'm going to collapse so that we have a bit more space. In here, you can have a look at the actual tasks that have been created to follow this specific production. In here, you can look at the tasks that have been created to track this specific production. This is completely customizable. You can create your own workflow according to the way you would like to work. In fact, let's have a look at where we can create and customize the workflows before we carry on. So I'm going to go to the settings page. And in here, go to the workflow menu. This is the place where you can customize and create the different workflows that you would like to track. We have a bunch of different workflows for the episodes themselves, for the scenes, as well as also tracking the assets productions. Let's have a look at a scene workflow. This is where we were a minute ago, and you can see that the exact same workflow was created in here, starting from layout through to setup, rough animation, cleanup animation, compositing, and render. In between each of these stages, you can see that there are these stages here, which have a round symbol, which represent an approval stage. This is to show that between layout and setup, for example, you need a supervisor or the director to approve the layout before it can go to setup. Sometimes you may have one approval, one person that needs to approve, or two, because of a specific setup that you've got. And you can do that very easily within Producer. You can have as many approval stages as you want, or none at all. All you need to do is add more of these stages and then change their settings. For example, you can also change the color by going to Task Setup over here and give it its own color. As I mentioned earlier, you can also track the production of your assets. In this instance, we have created 3 different types of asset tracking work. Restart. In this instance, we have creating 3 different workflows for your asset productions. One for backgrounds, one for props, and one for characters. Because each one of these demands a different workflow. You can create as many of these as you need. So let's go back to the production page. In here, you can see the workflow that I've just showed you, from the layout all the way to render. In order for you to track a specific scene, you first need to assign a user to a specific stage of your production. For instance, you've noticed that layout is assigned to Jade, layout check to Frank, layout approval to Kelly, setup to Frank, etc., etc. It is very easy to go down to these drop-down menus and assign a specific task to someone on your team. With regard to teams, it is also worth to note that in the settings menu, under users, you can create as many team members as you want within Producer and give them access to your tracking. You can also give them certain limitations as to what they can see, what they can access, or what they can change. In order to do that more efficiently, you can create groups for your users. For instance, you can have a standard group, for example, for artists, that will only be able to see their open tasks, for example, that will not see the reviews or the reports. You could also have a group for supervisors that maybe will be able to see everything. Or you could also create a group for your executives, such as the broadcasters, your clients, which maybe will only have access to reviews and some reporting. It is very easy for you to set that up without the need of any scripting or any help from us. So again, in the production page, we've now assigned a bunch of tasks to a bunch of people. Let's see how we can track the process of production. Let's say, for instance, that I am currently busy on rough animation for episode 109, scene 1. And I'm currently logged in as Toon Boom admin. So I'm going to put this one under in progress. And when I'm finished with this current scene, I'm going to put it to validate. You can see that automatically the next stage goes to pending. That means that Sarah, who's been assigned the rough animation approval, is going to now receive this task in her open task for her to do. You are also able to set up a notification for Sarah to show that she's got this specific task to do. Once Sarah has seen it and reviewed it, if she decides to say it's approved, watch what happens. The next stage becomes pending, and the previous stage becomes approved, which means that it's now out of my list of things to do, and it's in the list of Leah to do. These are called triggers. You can set these automations as much as you want. And it is very easy to do so, again, without the help of scripting. It is completely doable within the settings page. In the same window, there's a couple of things that you can also do. For instance, we can preview the version that is currently being uploaded for that scene. Over here, you have a preview window, and you can have a list of all the versions that are available for this particular scene. For instance, by clicking on this, you can see that there's been 3 versions of rough animation that were uploaded for this particular scene. So this keeps the history of all the versions available with their timestamp and date. If you want to have a quick preview of the scene or of that version, you can also look at it from the side panel. You can make it a bit bigger like this, or you can also put it full screen and play it from here. You can also put some notes if you would like directly from there, or see the list of notes available here for this particular scene, or go to your columns and see the notes on this side. That's a very quick way of reviewing or previewing a specific version. Now let's have a look at how we can review a few scenes at once. So for that task, I'm going to actually select a few scenes and I'm going to filter them to pin down exactly what I would like to review today. To do that, I can go to my search panel over here. And in the fields here, I'm going to add what I want to see. I would like to make it a specific process. Cleanup animation. I would like to see the cleanup animation scenes that are either to validate or to retake or to revise, and not any specific assignee. So I'm going to apply the search criteria. And now you can see that there are actually a few scenes here available. I'm going to select all of these, hide the search panel, and I'm going to click on Review. When I do that, I've got a couple of options. First, to select the review process, it is cleanup animation, so I'll leave it there. And you can see that we can either create a temporary review session, or we can also submit these scenes to an already scheduled review session. Let's just create a review now. And when it's done, I'm going to click on Open Review. In the review window, this is a list of all the available review sessions. Some are scheduled, and this is the temporary one we just created. By clicking on the number 4 here, the submission column, you can now delete some of these submissions, or you can also download these so that you can perhaps review them offline later. Let's close this and go into our review session. In this window, you can see a couple of columns. Here is the list of all the review sessions available from which you can switch from one to the next. The list of the scenes in this review session, and the list of notes already available for each one of these scenes. Let's give ourselves a bit of space and maybe hide the review column. One of the first things you notice is that if you press play over here, all of these scenes will play one after the next because they are now stitched together and play in one single stream. This is really great to be able to see the transition between two scenes and make sure it works. Of course, you can go to any specific scene and try to review that scene. So I'm going to, in fact, make it a bit bigger like that, full screen, maybe hide the notes, and it's nice and big for me to start reviewing. You can see the normal playback buttons over here. You can play. You can hide that playback bar to have a nice clean window. You can loop. You can use these buttons to go frame by frame, or you can use your keyboard shortcuts, arrows, to also go frame by frame. Once you've stumbled upon a frame that you would like to change, you can add an annotation to that frame by showing the drawing tools over here. And now you can access maybe the pen and draw something else. On the frame, you can add an arrow. You can erase something. You can undo something, you can redo, you can even change the color of your annotation to a different color like that. And that annotation is now an attached file that will go together with your comment. Let's write a comment down here and say, please review the hand. Once done, we're going to mark this one as a retake. So we're going to click on the retake button. We have to select which type of revision this is, regular, artistic, technical, or both. Let's make this an artistic revision. And the note should now be in. If we go back to the notes, you'll see that the note is here. It's marked revised. Status scene was set to revised. By whom, at which time, for which scene, for which process, and on which frame. You can always click on that again and modify this annotation if you need to. Once this is done, the person who's responsible for the stage before will now receive this in their list of things to do. For this particular one, we know that this previous stage was for Leah to do. So let's actually log in as Leah and see what happens in her open task. I'm going to open a new window and log in again, but this time under Leah. Now you'll notice that while I'm in her space over here, I can only see open tasks, assets, and views. That's because Leah is an artist and is limited to work within the one project that she's busy on, and that she does not have access to reports or reviews or the settings. So she can go to open tasks and look at the list of all the tasks that she's got to do. For instance, we can look at the scene that we've just modified now. And this one is marked revised. And you can see that there is the note, please review the hand. And it's got an attachment to it. So I can click on that attachment and it will open it in another tab. I can also download this if I want a reference on my desktop. So once I have done this, as Leah, I would like now to start working on this specific scene. So all I need to do is select the scene and click on the Open Harmony button over here, directly from Producer. As I click that, Toon Boom Producer will now open Toon Boom Harmony. If, of course, Toon Boom Harmony is installed on your computer. Now that this scene is open, I can start doing the modifications that were suggested. In this particular one, I'm just going to make the scene shorter, so not to take too long. And then we're going to send it back to Producer once the modification is complete. Once you've done the changes, you would like now to send it back to Producer to be validated one more time. This time, we're going to use a script and click on the Create Scene Snapshot. We're going to log in as Leah one more time. And then it's going to recognize that we are in the Roger et ses Humains production under episode 109, scene 4, which process, it's cleanup animation. And we would like to set the status of that to validate. Then you can choose to either send the render to the render queue once it's back in the server, or we can render right here, right now. So we're going to click OK. And Harmony is going to render the preview movie that will then be uploaded to Producer. Once it is complete, we can open the preview in a player. We can have a look at it, and if we're satisfied, we can click on Upload. Once done, Harmony will tell us that the scene snapshot is successfully created. Click OK, and we can go back to Producer. So as you can see, we did not need to leave the ecosystem at all. You could open the scene directly from Producer and also re-upload it again and change the status of that particular stage directly from Toon Boom Harmony and send it back to Producer. For instance, here, if we go to the production page again, you can see that the specific scene is now sent to be validated in the cleanup animation stage. And if you look at the list here, you can see that this is the, you can see, oh, sorry, let's start again. And if you look at the list of the versions over here, you can see that this is the latest version and it was created just a minute ago. That's how easy it is to integrate between your Toon Boom Harmony production and Toon Boom Producer. Let's now have a look at how we can track assets within Toon Boom Producer. The Asset tab is over here, and we're first going to look at the Manage window. In here, it is pretty much the same as tracking scenes. As I mentioned earlier, you can track different types of assets, backgrounds, props, characters, all kinds at all. And you can also categorize them. For instance, here I've created a background underlay, props, even characters. And each one of these, I've got different tasks. Because as we know, the production of a character is not the same as the production of a background, for example. If you would like to filter this a little bit easier, you could go and do a quick search and maybe just filter props. And you now have access to all the props in this list. You can also look at it in the tiles view, similarly as what you did for the scenes earlier. So similarly to the scene tracking, you can assign different stages to different team members. And you can also follow the progress of the status changes by changing the statuses over here. If you would like to access any one of these assets directly from Producer, even if you're not using Toon Boom Harmony, it's totally possible from here. For instance, let's open one of these backgrounds over here by selecting the list of the different versions that are available for this background and clicking on the Open Original File. This now will prompt to open the file in its native software. In this instance, it's Adobe Photoshop because it was a PSD file. If it was any other type of file, it will also open the native software in which you've created this file directly from Producer. Another great thing about Producer is that you can assemble certain assets and associate them to either a project, an episode, or scenes. To do that, we can go to Assets, Assembly, and we're going to choose to not associate assets to a whole project, but a specific one. We're even going to go down to a specific episode. And we can now associate certain of these assets to a specific scene. For example, scene 104 and 105, because in both of these scenes, there will be, let's say, a kitchen, there will be this character, that character, there will be these two mugs, there will be the ketchup. And now you can send all of these assets to these two specific scenes. We can also remove anything from here if you need to. Producer will also help you go a bit further than that. In fact, it will allow you to import these assets directly into Toon Boom Harmony. So you will actually be able to do your scene setup from Producer. It will import the assets directly inside of Harmony and attach it to your Toon Boom Harmony composite. And all of that done directly from Producer. Finally, let's have a look at what we can do with all of this metadata. In Producer, you can create reports. By going into the reports page, you'll see that we have a bunch of options here. For example, we can have a look at a summary, a scene task summary. I'm just going to do a very broad search by going to the project that we're busy tracking, but you can also go to more details. For instance, you can look at only the things that have been approved. You can also look at a specific date, between which date here, and you can also go by assignee, for example. But let's leave it completely open and do search. And you can see that we now have a summary of how our production is going. And you can see, for example, that 61% of our scenes are still in standby. If you hover over it, you can see the details. 29% of them are approved, and so on and so forth. All of this information can now be exported either to HTML, to CSV, to an Excel spreadsheet, PDF, or you can also export it to a script so you can incorporate it into some other way of seeing your data. You can also save any of these reports so that you can have access to it later. For instance, you can save the reports to give access to other types of users, such as your client, for example, or your executives, or your producer who wants to see how things are going, or different types of reports, without needing to do the search themselves. For instance, here, we can have a look at how each one of our team members are doing. So we can look at a monthly frame total, and you can see that within the last 30 days, it gives us the total of the amount of frames per user that have been worked on. And you can see different types of graphs at the bottom. So there really is quite a lot of information that you can extract from Producer, which gives you a lot of power for example, doing some scheduling, some budgeting, as well as productivity reports or progress reports. Thank you for watching this demo. I hope you found that helpful. If you need a little bit more information, you can always go to our website, toonboom.com, and look at all the other documentations that we have available. Thanks again. Bye-bye for now.